welcome to episode 39 of Fluffy Fibres, the French podcast in English on sewing, knitting, spinning and living green, although of course with the occasional help of the kitty of the house. Hello everyone, and thank you very much for spending some time with me today. Today is January the 28th, 2016, and as always I'm so excited to be back to chat with you really and share what I've been up to in all of my crafting, and I do hope you enjoy. Thank you so much for checking out my podcast if you're new to the podcast, and thank you for coming back. Thank you so much for coming back if you are a returning viewer or listener. My name is Isabelle, and you can find me on Instagram, Ravelry, Pinterest and Twitter as Fluffy Fibres, and the website for the podcast is fluffyfibres.com. Regarding Instagram, I've received a lot of requests recently, which is very exciting, of course. So first of all, if you come, recommended from anyone, do tell me. I'd be really curious to know. And secondly, my Instagram feed is set to private, and I will only accept people either that I know, of course, or people that are clearly identified as niches or parts of the sewing fibre community. So the trouble is, if your profile is set to private and there's no information whatsoever in your profile description, then there is no way I can tell, unless of course your username has sews or knits in it or that kind of thing. There is no way I can tell whether you're... Bien, petite mignonne. Sorry, petite mignonne wanted to be part of the show today. So there is no way I can tell who you are and why you want to check out my feed. So if I can't tell, I will not accept you, and it's nothing personal. And if I have refused you, but you are a knitter or a spinner or a sewist, please do either message me on Ravelry, which is the easiest, or drop me a line at fluffyfibres@gmail.com to let me know you'd like to follow me on Instagram, and of course I will allow you access to my Instagram feed. Yes, there is another thing that I wanted to address. Yes, just lastly regarding Instagram, sometimes, because the number of notification you can get from Instagram is limited to 50, and the trouble is, because of the time difference between the Europe and the US and Australia, especially the US, I think when most of you are commenting or using Instagram in the US, I am, it's the evening for you and I'm asleep. And so it means that I think often I miss things, I miss tags or mentions or comments, and I do wanted to let you know I wasn't ignoring anyone. And I've been realising sometimes, as I read through my feed, I can see people mentioning me and I can't find it in my notifications. I'm not sure if that's only me, but the problem with that obviously is that it means unless I actually see your post as I'm scrolling down my own feed, I can't respond, and I'm very sorry if that has been the case. It really wasn't intentional. I really love all the interaction through Instagram, and I do love responding, of course, so I'm very sorry that has been the case. And if you really want me to show and to see anything, the best way to do so would be to tag me, to click on the picture and add my name into the picture. That's really a way where I can't miss it, because it's actually part of my own profile after that. So and it's a different kind of notification. So yes. Lastly, as regards housekeeping and the like, I've been really wondering lately whether to keep the audio version of the podcast. And well, first of all, I still haven't edited the last episode, the audio episode. I just haven't had the time, and the thing is, the audio podcast takes me a lot longer because I still want to produce something that is agreeable to the ear, and if I just drop the audio file from the video, if I just drop it onto my Podbean account, onto iTunes, I don't think it's a great experience. I did that, I think, once because I really was short on time, and then listening back to it I realised it just wasn't nice because you get, you know, of course, pauses when I'm showing something and some crinkling, and also sometimes I will, when I edit the audio, I will edit out things that just don't make sense when you're not, when you don't have the video. So it does take a lot of time because it means I'm first editing the video, and then once I'm done with that, I have to do it all over again for the audio and really listen to everything. And the thing is, I really haven't had much, if at all, if any, response from any audio listeners. I think a lot of you have switched to viewing the videos rather than listening to the audio. And Podbean, the Podbean plan I have is the unlimited plan, because otherwise, well, it's the one that, you know, otherwise it would be the broadband, the broadband would be completely, the bandwidth would be off, would be completely saturated after, I think, 3 days after I've uploaded an episode. But it means it costs a lot of money, obviously. And so I was wondering whether it really is worth all the extra effort and money, but especially effort, really. So yes, I would really like to know if there are still any, you know, audio listeners out there, because I really don't have much feedback from you, and is it really worth keeping the audio, is really my point. Do let me know, of course, do let me know. So yes, today's segments will include my cup of tea, a handmade wardrobe, events, a bit of sewing, a bit of knitting, a bit of spinning, quite a bit of spinning, and Happy Mail Day. So yes, I do hope you're all, you know, nicely settled, or yes, and enjoying either warm beverage, or if you're in the southern hemisphere, something nice and cool. So as for me, I'm finally back to enjoying tea, which is wonderful, green tea at least, and I'm having some in an absolutely lovely set that was sent to me as a beautiful Christmas gift. I absolutely love this. It was sent to me by Yola, who is Lola Jojo on Instagram, Lola Jojo _69 on Instagram, and Lola Jojo, Lola hyphen Jojo, Lola dash Jojo on Ravelry. And she is very attached to France. She I think she's planning, or she's just purchased a country house in France, which is very exciting. So she loves everything French, and that's how she started watching the podcast. And so she wanted to send me this lovely set because she knows how much I love these, and she thought it was so delicate, and I don't know, and the colour, of course, is absolutely glorious and really something I love. So thank you so much, Yola. I absolutely loved getting this at Christmas. It's one of my most special gifts I got, I think, this year. And it's so special drinking tea out of such a tiny, dainty cup. It makes it even more of a special act, I guess. And so the tea I'm having is a French organic tea, which is Thé de la Pagode, and it's a sencha tea, which is, I think sencha tea is my favourite green tea. It's my favourite kind, and it's with vanilla and cherry blossom. So that's completely what I'm into at the moment, and I'm so happy to be back to enjoying tea at last. I'm not having much. I still can't enjoy black tea or chai or anything spicy, and I'm not having much tea anyway because I think it's best not to have too much caffeine, you know, generally speaking, and especially during a pregnancy. So it's actually my first cup of the day. In the morning I'm still having my lovely lemon squeezed into some hot water with a bit of honey, and I love that. And I'm taking this opportunity to thank so much every one of you who's been sending me messages, emails, commenting on my Instagram picture or in the Ravelry thread about my happy news from last time. I'm just so... Kit is very happy. I'm going to lower the camera a little so you can see her better, because I'm afraid that might be a little frustrating for you not to see her better. So there you go. Oh, la petite mignonne. So yes, thank you so very much, and especially I got so many responses on Instagram, and I haven't been able to respond personally the way I usually like to. So please, I've loved reading everything, and I've really treasured everything, so thank you so much. So yes, for a handmade wardrobe today, I'm wearing two handmade things. I'm wearing my plantain top by Dear & Doe, which I made I think a year ago actually, and Tidminion keeps messing it up, but that's okay, isn't it? But yes, I made a very casual, it's a very casual version of it. So I made it pretty long and in the hips, and it's out of a cotton knit fabric, so it's very cozy, and it's really intended as an indoors loungewear type of thing. And the other handmade thing I have is my earrings, and they were made by my best friend Julie, who lives near Paris, and I think it matches perfectly this top, so I love it. And so yeah, I love these as well. They're very dramatic, and I think, yeah, very fun, very unique. There you go. So yes, that's what I'm wearing, and as I told you last time, I'm planning on wearing more Dear & Doe and making more Dear & Doe t-shirts as part of my at least early maternity wardrobe, because I think it lends itself really well, the fit lends itself really well to maternity style and to being very cozy. So as regards events, I especially wanted to talk about a sew-along that I wanted to start for early 2016, and I've been wanting to have a sew-along for a while because I know a lot of you enjoy the sewing content of the podcast. And I mentioned last time I want to make a washi dress as well, and as I also received a lovely pattern from a friend that I will mention later on in the podcast, and it started a discussion on Instagram with a few of you, and I just thought, yes, that's the perfect time for a sew-along. And so the sew-along is going to be the cute dress sew-along, and the idea is just to sew a cute dress so that we're ready for spring, really, you know, in anticipation of spring for those of us in the northern hemisphere. So I think the sew-along will run until the beginning of the spring, so March the 20th, so that our dresses are all ready to enjoy. And I'm saying cute dress because I want this to be about something really fun for ourselves, a treat really for ourselves, not corporal clothing or formal clothing. So I think we can all use a fun dress, a cute dress in our wardrobe, you know. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm very distracted by the cat. I completely forgot to mention, but we have, and I hope you can't hear too much of it, but we are having our roof completely redone at the moment, and it's been going on for, well, since Monday. Today is Thursday. And I really tried to get my best opportunity to record. This morning they were on the other side of the roof for the first time, so I thought, that's the good, you know, a good plan to podcast today, because the other days there was no way I could have podcast because of the noise. But the problem is because my sewing room is in this little turret, I can see them working on the roof, which is pretty distracting, and I'm a bit concerned that they can see me filming myself. I'm probably thinking that is completely ridiculous. I'm hoping they're not, and that's why my setup is different today, because I'm not completely in front of the window, but I can still see them, so I'm thinking they might also be able to see me, which is a bit distracting, to say the least. I hope it's not the case. I'm pretty, I'm really into the room, but this room is so small that, yeah. So that's why you may hear some noise, and I do apologise for that, but I really didn't want to put the podcast off for another week. So I really want to get back into a more regular schedule for the podcast. So yes, that's why I've been so distracted, and the cat just went back downstairs, so I think we'll be maybe more quiet on that front at least. So yes, I'll start a thread on Ravelry, and I do hope it's convenient. If any one of you want to participate and is not on Ravelry, do let me know, so that I can start something on the website. Yes. But yes, I will give you a tag. I think it will simply be cute dress so long, because I can't think that that has already been taken. But yeah, the idea is that I think we can all use a fun cute dress in our wardrobes for the weekend, for holidays, and even some of us I know are able to wear these at work. So now for a bit of sewing. So I do have lots of exciting things in terms of sewing. So the two reasons why the setup is completely different today is, first, the reason I told you. I didn't want to film in the other way, because then they would be on camera and that would be super weird super distracting for you. I think the workers would be. And that wouldn't be right, would it, to film them unbeknownst to them. But the other reason is that I am in the process of completely changing my setup in my sewing room. And I finally have a new desk, which is gorgeous and made in France out of sustainable pine trees grown in French forests, which is just wonderful. No glue, no nasty chemical stuff in it. That's the reason why I don't shop at IKEA, actually. One of the reasons is really this aspect of there is a lot of chemicals and glues in the products, which pollute your home really. So the only time when I buy IKEA stuff is secondhand, so that I know it's already given off most of its chemicals, yes, anyway, tangent, but so I'm very happy about this desk. Seb built it for me last weekend, and so I've been busy, and I'm almost done now, but I've been busy reorganising everything. I've been busy taking stock of all my stash and reorganising it as well, and now I want to cast on everything, and there are so many things I want to make now, and I really need to knit from stash really this year, mostly from stash. I have so much lovely yarn really that needs to be knit. I also have quite a bit of sock yarn, so I think one aim for me this year is going to be to have always something on DPNs, meaning mostly socks, but well, at the moment I just finished knitting some mitts, and I want to knit another pair for myself. So either mitts or or a hat or socks, but I really want to always have this kind of quick, short and small project as well, for waiting rooms and this, the tramway, this kind of thing. So yes, that's going to be a goal for this year. I have such lovely silk yarn in my stash. I have a couple of skeins of Knit Picks Felici that Gabby, a viewer, very, very kindly sent me last autumn. I absolutely love, and everyone's been knitting on Felici lately, so I'm very eager to knit this. It's very special yarn. Yeah, so I think I will do a sewing room tour next time I podcast, because it's not ready yet, and actually because the workers have been here, they're not redoing the roof over my head because it's fine, but the rest of the roof in our house our flat has been horrible. And we've been waiting for 2 years to be able to have the funds and so forth to do this roof repairs, and it's not just repairing the roof, they're completely taking off everything and putting new tiles and everything, new isolation. So it's a huge work, and it means it's also been producing a lot of dust in our flat actually. So I've had to, all the yarn, all the fibre that was in the living room, and there was or in my office, and there was quite a lot of it, I had to gather it all up, and now I'm in the process of reorganising it in my sewing room as well. So yes, so that's very lovely and very inspiring to do, but it's quite a lot of work. But yeah, but I'm very, very happy that this sewing room is finally coming to life, and I'm actually now using it as my office. I don't really have a dedicated room in the flat apart from this room to work. I have a desk, but it's our living room is really big, and you have several open spaces in it, so it's an open space, which isn't the best to concentrate really. But since I've had this lovely desk, which is bigger, I've actually been working here, which has been lovely because I've been able to concentrate really well, and I've managed to do a lot of work over the past couple of weeks. So that's great. So it's really becoming a room that I'm really finally completely enjoying and investing really, appropriating, I mean. So I think I'm waffling on quite a bit in this episode. I do hope you don't mind. I'm usually I think more organised than this, but I think it's the roof business that's completely distracting me. But that's okay. Let's go with the flow. So apart from this, regarding my sewing room, I have very excitingly purchased a new sewing machine. So it's a Janome, and so the reason why I purchased a new machine was my machine was a brother, and there was nothing wrong with the fact that it was a brother. I bought it second hand 12 years ago. So it was 15 years old and making a lot of noise, and also it just wasn't quite what I needed anymore. It was an embroidery machine, and definitely was a wonderful embroiderer, but I don't do embroidery anymore. And I figured what I really wanted, what I really needed, was a good garment sewing machine, and possibly quilting machine. And so that's what I got. And so I researched for a long time, as you can imagine. I think I mentioned last year, because I got a question last year about how to choose a sewing machine and that kind of thing, and I think I mentioned one of the brands I was most drawn to was Pfaff machines. And I remember when I first shopped for my sewing machine, so 12 years ago, I wanted a Pfaff, but it was just completely out of my budget. And so of course, naturally, when I started researching machines, I started going to Pfaff machines, and looking them up online. And the problem is, Pfaff have changed they've changed the whole manufacturing process, and it's not streamlined anymore. It's not as they have really how do you say that in in English. Well, they're no longer making all of their parts really. They're really delegating a lot of it to other factories and that kind of thing. And the quality, it's obvious when you start reading up online. Over the past 5 years or so, the quality has really gone down. And sorry, I have cat hair. And you can still get a good machine, but it's very hit or miss. You can get a good machine and you can really get a dud. And when you think of the price, it's quite concerning. The other brand I really liked was Janome, and this brand is still very much, obviously very reliable, and really across the board people tend to be very, very happy with their Janomes, and it's still manufactured in a way that is more reliable really. So I got a Janome. I went to a sewing machine shop in Montpellier that it's very surprising because it's a tiny sewing machine shop, but in fact it's just like the window to a huge company behind it that actually has a huge website. It's machineacoudre.fr for the French amongst you. I'm sure if you sew you all know this website. And actually they're storing all of their machines in Montpellier, not in that tiny shop, but so it means that if you want to try any other machines from the website, they can have it brought to you in the shop, and you can buy it there, which is wonderful. So that's what I did. And the machine I got is the Janome Skyline S5, and there was a very good price on it as well. There was a good rebate on it, which was great. And I'm very happy about it. Sadly, I haven't been able to sew much on it yet, but I've tested it a lot in the shop, and I've been sewing on it, and it's just exactly what I needed. A very precise machine, wonderful tension, beautiful stitches, and just you do have some fun, fancy stitches as well. You have some quilting stitches, and as you know, I want to go into quilting more, so it's just the perfect machine for me. It's very ergonomic as well, and yeah, so I'm thrilled. I'm really thrilled. Of course I will be reporting on it more as I sew more in it, especially as I sew more garments on it. But it seems to be the perfect machine for when you're both making garments and making, bags or quilting and that kind of thing. So yes, I worked so much overtime last year. Not really out of choice. I was just so understaffed that I have to do a lot of things that I would rather pass on to someone else really, but it means I've had a lot of overtime, and I just figured at the end of the year, I was doing my accounts, and I just figured I really should use some of that money towards a great gift for myself, because it's been such a hard year for me, 2015, in terms of my work, and I've really paid the toll of it in terms of stress and exhaustion, and I just thought, yes, let's have this wonderful treat. So yes, it's a wonderful way to start the year really. New sewing room, reorganised sewing room, new sewing machine. And of course I'm going to be making quilts and baby things on it, and maternity clothes as well, so also very exciting. I did sew a little. I did finally finish the project bag that I mentioned last time, which is this project bag. So the main fabric is, I forgot to mention this last time, I showed you this fabric last time, so it's Paris themed. Moi Paris, j'adore Paris, oh la la, j'adore Paris. So it's a bit cliche of course, but there's nothing wrong with that, is there? And actually this is actually made in France, which is wonderful. So it's a linen type, linen kind of fabric. You've got the Notre Dame Cathedral, some perfume, some hot lady of course, the Eiffel Tower. So yes, and I used this contrasting fabric from Toto as well, which I mentioned last time. And inside I lined it with another grey, so it's really several greys. It's a drawstring bag. I use the tutorial from In Colour Order, so it's the lined drawstring bag tutorial, which is lovely. And this is pretty narrow and high because I designed it as a sock project bag, and I think it's going to work really well for that. And I didn't line it on purpose because this way I usually I did line it. I didn't interface it. I usually interface my bags, but my lovely friend Erin doesn't. Erin of the Handmade podcast, who made this, she doesn't interface her bags, and it's, you know, once they're filled up, they do stand up on their own, of course, and this has boxed bottoms as well. And so I figured the good thing about these non-interfaced bags is that they're a lot squishier, and you can squish them into your main, you know, your purse, and I think it's good for a sock project. So this is going to a friend. I'm not saying who, but it's going to a friend, and I used some linen ties for the drawstring. It's sorry, it's this. I got some of this. It's lin naturel. Yeah, there you go. So yeah, that's a tiny project that I finished, but I do have other plans, and I've just been, as I told you last time, I've been so incredibly busy the past couple of weeks with work, with essays, essay marking, and starting from this week, starting especially from today, I'm going to be able to have a much more normal rhythm. So I'm going to be able to get back to watching podcasts as well, which I have a horrible backlog of podcasts. Not horrible backlog, but I'm horribly late in watching podcasts, and I know I won't be able to catch up on every one of you, so I do apologise, but it's just insane. I think I have about 3 weeks. I'm about 3 weeks late on my podcast watching, so yes, so I do look forward to, you know, watching them again and sewing, and yes, and just having some time to myself. On, you know, of course still working, but because I want to be having the commute and that kind of thing, I'm going to have a lot, you know, more time really. Yeah, and the next thing I want to say is a Dirando top, as I told you, a plantain top, which is a free pattern on the Dirando website. You just need to register on the website. It's free, it's bilingual, French, English. And so I have this fabric. It's a cotton knit with some sort of illegible scribblings on it, and hearts, so of course it looks like love letters. So I thought it would be a fun little top to have for Valentine's Day. I'm not really, I don't celebrate Valentine's Day, but I don't know, it was just seasonal. So I need to figure out how much. I'm not sure I have enough to make long sleeves, but even if I make short sleeves, I think it'll be really nice. And yes, that allows me to segue into a bit of knitting, because this is going to match one of my knitting projects. But before, I just forgot to mention a fun episode when I was at the sewing machine shop. It's a tiny shop, as I told you, and there was so I spent quite a bit of time really trying out the machines, and the shopkeeper was so kind, and she was about my age. We really hit it off really well. I had a wonderful time, and I could see she was also enjoying chatting, sewing about sewing with me. And because there wasn't any room anywhere, I was starting to get really hot, so I took my coat off, and she didn't have any hanger or anything. She did have a sewing a dress form. in the shop window. So she put my coat on the dress form. 3 minutes later, a lady comes into the shop wanting to buy the coat, which was just so funny. And it was my Dear and Do handmade coat, of course, my Dear and Do pavot coat. So the Dear and Do pavot jacket is a springtime jacket, but I converted it into a lined winter coat. So a grey coat with wine coloured lining, and I really like this coat. It's pretty. I love the details in it. It's got slightly puffed sleeves and you know, a Peter Pan collar as well, which is really cute. So, but it was just so funny and so really so flattering, really, for this woman to be entering the shop and thinking it was a clothes shop, you know, and wanting to purchase it. So yeah, I just wanted to mention this on the podcast. So yeah, moving on to knitting now. So, well, I'll just start mentioning this, you know, what's this going to March, and it's my campsite shawl, which isn't done yet, but I'm having this in my beautiful Holland Handmade Co. bag from Erin, who is Mama to Abigail on Ravelry on Instagram, and she has the Holland Handmade Co. .etsy.com shop, and she has the Holland Handmade podcast as well, which I highly recommend. She knits, and she knits lots of socks, especially in shawls. She crochets a lot. She's crocheting blankets at the moment, a lot of, you know, she's very active in that, and she sews, of course, beautiful project bags and tote bags as well. The campsite shawl is a free design by Alicia Plummer, and it was a free design from Pom Pom Mag and the Pom Pom website, and it's a huge DK shawl, and it is really getting huge. I can't even show it to you, of course, and it's on the needles, but you can see, definitely see it's getting pretty huge. Yeah, so it's all eyelets, really. You know, it's a triangle shawl with various various eyelet designs. You know, they're more and more, they're staggered eyelets, and they're getting more and more, you get more and more eyelets as you go, really, as you reach the bottom. And so this is where I was last time. This is a dinosaur stitch marker that I got from a homespun house. Super cute. And so this is where I was last time. I was 30% done last time, and I am 80% done now. I almost only knit on this, really, over the past couple of weeks. And yeah, I'm almost done with the eyelets portion, and then you have some really nice and modern ribbing as the 2x2 rib, I think, as the border, which is really modern and very nice. And the pattern has a few either mistakes or unclear things in it, and it's charted, but there have a lot of very generous people in Ravelry and helpful people have clarified the mistakes or the you know, things that weren't quite clear. And one knitter especially, and I think I mentioned her, I wrote her name down. No, I didn't. I mentioned her name, her username, in my project page for the campsite, and she very kindly produced a PDF for, I think it's a PDF, for where she wrote down the instructions line by line, so it's a complete no-brainer, of course, once you've got that. And the only things I did differently was I purled and knit through the back loop, so both right and wrong side, for the central spine. And I really like this effect, actually. It really, you know, gives it some interest. And also I did the increases differently. I did make one left, make one right, make one left, make one right, because that's what makes sense to me in terms of the of the direction of the increases, really. But that's the only thing I did differently. I think there was a mistake in the written instructions on one row. I did write it down in my project page, so, but it's very intuitive, so you don't really, I think anyone would have spotted this mistake, I guess. So yes, so it's a very, I wouldn't say mindless, because you do have to pay attention, especially as the eyelets are, you know, symmetrical on each side. So on the one side you go knitted together, you go yarn over, knitted together, knit, and on the other you go slip, slip, knit, yarn over, knit. So you do have to be mindful of that. I think I'm just reaching the point when I want to be done, because it's pretty huge, and it's going to be really massive, and that's exactly what I wanted. To have a very, very cozy shawl to wrap myself in when I'm working from home, but also that I can still, you know, of course, scrunch up a little and wear as a scarf, as a massive scarf, when it's really cold. It's so soft. The yarn I'm using is Rowan Baby Silk Merino DK, and it's very, very soft. And the reason why I used, it's the zinc colourway. The reason why I'm using this is part of the knit along I'm doing with my Montpellier friends, and I wanted the yarn to come from a Montpellier shop, so that's why. The needles I'm using are Chiagu, I think it's 5.5 millimeter. No, 5 millimeter, size 8, US size 8, 5 millimeter needles, and they're my Chiagu interchangeable lace twist needles, which I love. They're my favourite needles. So yes, it's getting massive. I think so far I've used 4 balls of yarn, I think. Let me check. Maybe 5. I think I'm on my 5th. Yeah, on my 5th ball of yarn, and it's 50 gram balls, so 250 grams so far. And I know the last 20% is going, of course, to use up quite a bit still. And if I use it all that for this, of course it's great. If I have one skein remaining, I'm going to knit a matching hat. I don't have hats anymore for me because I felted, very sadly, I had one hat, handmade hat, and I felted it a couple of weeks ago. So I need to make myself a hat pretty soon. It's very mild at the moment in Montpellier. It's pretty grey actually. It's going to be really sunny starting tomorrow, but it's very mild. It's been really crisp last week. This week it's been so mild. We actually haven't needed the heating at all, and as you can see I'm not even wearing any shawl or sweater or anything. So it's pretty crazy, but it's pretty normal weather, I think. So yes, that's one work in progress. I did finish 2 projects. I finished my mitts, my fingerless mitts that I'm knitting out, that I knit out of the Woolbarn Goldie socks in the Enchanted colourway. Which is absolutely gorgeous. I do hope you can see the sparkle. And so I haven't woven in the ends yet, but here they are. So these are going to be for my older sister as a souvenir from our time during the Christmas holidays, because I knit most of these while chatting with her. So there you go. Yeah, I'm very, very happy about these. So the pattern, the initial pattern, is a sock pattern by Robin Lynn, and it is the My Cup of Tea socks. It's a free pattern on Ravelry. It's got this lovely ginkgo motif at the front, and as I was knitting it, I thought the yarn was just too pretty to be worn with socks, so I decided to convert the pattern into fingerless mitts. And so I did a thumb gusset, and yeah, some ribbing, very easy really. And I mentioned last time that if the designer, Robin Lynn, agreed, I could definitely publish these as a free pattern. And within hours of publishing the podcast, I received the nicest, the kindest email from Robin herself, because one of you, one of the viewers of the podcast, messaged her and mentioned that I had designed some, mitts out of her sock pattern. And so she messaged me super kindly and told me that she could email me the Word file, so I could get the chart and the instructions and anything I could find useful. And she was just so kind. She had just watched the podcast, and she had the kindest words, and it's just, I was completely blown away really, by how kind and generous she was. So this design will be out pretty soon, as soon as I have the time to edit the file and publish it really, and it will be a free pattern again. First of all, because obviously the initial design was free, but also I figured this would be a nice way to celebrate the podcast being such a lovely place for me and for a lot of you, from what I gather from your lovely comments. And so it's just a way to thank you really for being such wonderful supporters of the podcast. And yeah, she was just so kind. She actually spent a year as a student in Montpellier, which was just so exciting. And it really is one of these instances when you think the fibre community is just so special, and yeah, so thank you so much, Robin, for your wonderful messages and for sharing the pattern with me, and for being just so kind. So yes, yeah, so now, and again the yarn is absolutely glorious. It's so Goldie Socks, which means it's the sock base by Maya of the Wool Barn on Etsy, but it's her sparkly sock base. And it's just gorgeous. Look at that. Yeah. So that's one project. I'm keeping it in a matching bag, which I made last year out of a French fabric, which is called Toile de Jouy in France. So my last work in progress is, well no, it's a finished object actually. Yes, here it is. Got things everywhere. In another bag that I made last year out of some Liberty fabric from the quilt exhibition they had in, I think, 2010 in London. Well, not they, but the V&A had this exhibition, and Liberty issued some prints, some quilting prints to go with it, from vintage prints. So I just knit over the past few days. I knit this list, again, ends not woven in. I think this is the festival of unwoven ends, because if you look at my campsite, the inside of my campsite is full of ends as well that needs weaving in, because of the balls being just 50 gram balls. So I have ends to weave in everywhere. So, and also there was a knot in a couple of the skeins as well, which I thought was really strange for 50 gram balls and rowing as well. I mean, so yes, tons of ends to weave in after I'm done recording. So yes, I made this little hat for my daughter, and I showed this a few episodes ago before Christmas. My daughter saw this in the Mercerie shop in Montpellier, which is a local yarn and haberdashers, yarn shop and haberdashers, and She really loved the little dog, which is I was quite happy about, because most of the kits, so this was a kit with a ball of yarn with the little head as the pom-pom, and most of the kits, let me see if I have the tag somewhere. I know I brought it up, but apparently I can't find it anymore in my podcaster's mess. So anyway, I may insert a picture so you can see, but most of the kits in the collection, so this is the Top This collection by DMC, and most of them were super colourful, bright colours with, you know, some animals on top. And she, of course, at first she really liked the cat, but the cat was mostly pinks, and she's not a pink fan, a fan of pink, my daughter, not yet anyway. So in the end she settled for this little dog. So yeah, there you go. And so it's various textures. You have two textures for the white, one that is really fluffy, and then you have the taupe, which is a really nice shade. This is all acrylic, of course. And yeah, so I knitted, of course, to her measurements. I need a pretty big brim because I thought that this way she could wear it for a longer time, because she can flip it up. And because I knit this, you know, it's really a child's hat, but there is enough in the skein to knit up to a small adult size, or at least so they say. And I did want to get the, you know, because I knew at the end of the ball you still had this lovely taupe and some of the fun boucle or whatever, or faux, I don't know. And so in order to get the, you know, this without the hat being too long, I pulled some of the yarn, of the extra yarn, so that I didn't have to knit all this. And so again, another, you know, a couple of ends to weave in. And so the hat is tied with ribbons. The dog head really it has ribbons hanging out, had two ribbon ends hanging out of it. So you just tie it with this little kind of foam, yes, foam disc to make it, you know, stand up better, I guess. So yes, so I guess I need to weave in ends before this evening, because she's going to want to wear this as soon as she sees it. So yes, she's going to be really excited about this. It's a very silly little project, but she's going to be so thrilled that I finished that. So yeah, so that is it for my knitting this week, this time, and now I can move on to a bit of spinning. So I have been spinning my Harlequin bites from Fond & Fibre. Last week I showed the pack, because I gave it, you know, I had an extra pack as a giveaway in the mini spin along, and so I showed it to you. And so I decided to start spinning my own Harlequin bites. And I mentioned last time I wanted to spin these towards a baby blanket for the upcoming baby. And so I've been deliberately spinning these thicker, because I like baby blankets to be at least worsted weight. I think fingering weight blankets are really nice and light, but they're not as warm, obviously. And I really would like this to be a pretty substantial blanket. So far I've finished 3. So, there you go. So you have this natural one, which I think is completely undyed. And then these two, the teal one, which is my favourite, and this grass green. And And so, of course, I'm really happy with the spinning in itself. It's pretty even, it's really fluffy and soft and squishy, really, really soft. And the yarn is very plumped and just really lovely. It's going to be such a squishy, squishy blanket. Let me see. Yeah, there you go. It's pretty even, and it's been a challenge for me to spin this because I'm really trying to spin thicker than I usually do, and so I have to constantly concentrate on that, you know, not go into my spinning zone, as it were, and I really have to, you know, draft thicker, draft thicker fibre. So I'm very happy with what I've been able to achieve, because sorry, I had to pause a minute. Yes, any you know, spinner after a while find it's actually more difficult to spin thicker yarn, especially you know, even yarn than thinner yarn. You tend to go thinner and thinner, you know, really, the more you spin. And so I'm very happy with the consistency of the yarn, of how squishy it is. The only problem is, so these are about 25 grams each, give or take. The problem is, I think they're only, I think something like 30 meters at most. So I'm not sure what design I can use to, you know, towards the blanket. At first, I really had my heart set on the Vivid blanket by Tin Can Knits, which I think is such a beautiful design for a baby blanket. You know, it's has those lace squares with garter stitch border for each square. But I think even if I used a contrasting colour for the garter stitch border, I'm still unsure that I would have enough in each of these. So that's the constant dilemma, isn't it, when you're spinning, is either you spin thinner yarn and you have more yardage, or you want to squish your yarn, a fatter yarn, and then of course it eats up a lot of the yardage. And this is just a 2-ply, and I used my jumbo flyer for this on the middle well. I can't remember the ratio. I will put it somewhere on the screen. So I'm using I have a Kromsky Sonata, and I have yes. So and I spun and plied them on the same well. I now do that. I think it's a better. It gives me the result I want in terms of the plying as well. So, yes, I'm really undecided now. I'm not sure still if I want to do a mitered square blanket. The jury's still out. I guess I just need to knit one up. Or maybe not knit one of these up, but knit something out of the similar weight in my stash. This is worsted to more Aran yet weight really now, because it really is very fluffy. Yeah, so try and knit something out of scraps in the same yardage and see how far I can go with one. So, but of course on the upside, these spun up in no time at all, because they're thicker, and they're plied up in no time at all. So I actually have plied the others as well. Oh, I forgot one downstairs. Okay, one is on my wheel. I had 6 of them. Yeah, apparently I forgot one up downstairs. Sorry. So this is another one. It's the more pinky, corally, light coral shade. I have the purple one almost done on my wheel, and the fuchsia pink as well. Yeah, these go really fast, but yeah, I need to figure out what pattern I can use with these. But in any case, I think it's going to be such a lovely blanket. And so I got more fibre towards this blanket, more in the same kind of quantity. And I went to Hilltop Cloud, which is another UK-based. I can't remember if I said this is from Fondant Fibre. I'm sorry, Deb, if you're watching. So these lovely Harlequin bites. Yeah, I completely forgot to say what they were. These are, so they were her Harlequin bites. Sadly, she doesn't have any in the shop at the moment. So they were blended fibre with merino bamboo and Shetland. Merino Shetland bamboo, I think. And they really were a joy to spin. An absolute joy. So I decided to go with some more British fibre, or at least European fibre, shall we say. And so I went with Hilltop Cloud, who is another wonderful fibre dye and yarn dyer. I think especially fibre though. She really knows her stuff when it comes to spinning and fibre. And she has several collections. She's from Wales, and if I recall, yes, I think so. Yes, she's from Wales, and she had collections that are inspired from Wales. So I'm not going to attempt to pronounce this, because of course I can't pronounce Welsh. I'm not going to pretend to ridicule myself, and especially I don't want to butcher the language. So this is Shetland, BFL, Merino, Soy Silk and Angelina. So wonderful mix, and the colours are just the kind of shades that I already have in the, you know, pretty muted rainbows really, which is really what I'm going for with this blanket. And I have another pack which I like even more. This is just gorgeous, and it's I'm not going to pronounce it, but it's H-R-A-E-T-H. Can you see that? Yes, you can. So 200 grams, inspired by the spirit and landscape of Wales. And it's got 50% merino, 25 Shetland, 12.5 alpaca and 12.5 silk, which is going to be just amazing to spin, I think. And so you have 20 gram samples of 10 different colorways, and again the colors are just exactly what I'm going for with this blanket. So I think it's going to be such an amazing blanket really, once once I've decided on an actual design, of course. But I think these colors, it's just going to be such a special project. These muted rainbows. So yes, I'm very, very excited. This is my most exciting project at the moment, is to spin and start making this blanket really. So yes, so exciting. Yeah. And I wanted to mention lastly, as regards spinning, how I wind my yarn onto bobbins, because I actually was asked this question in the Q&A thread, and I do realise I'm shamefully behind on this. I really do want to have a Q&A episode sometime soon. But also Devin of the Tiny Paper Foxes podcast was wondering about that in his, not his latest, but the previous podcast, the one from last week, and the VKL podcast, I think. And I replied to him in the forum, in their group, but I do want to share it here as well, because it reminded me that I had been asked this question as well by a listener or a viewer of the podcast. And so the system I used is called bobbins. That was the bobbin. Sorry. Right, so the system I use is called Bobbins Up, and these are made in the US, and they are very reasonably priced. The shipping is very reasonable as well. I have 8 of them. I got this when I was spinning my sweater in 2014, because I really needed an efficient way and a good number of bobbins. And so actually these are numbered. I added a little sticker on these because when I was winding my singles from my sweater on them, I wanted to mix them as much as possible so that I had, you know, some from the very beginning mixed with some from the end so that it would even out. It was a 3-ply. So anyway, so what's great about this is, for me, it was very cost effective and it's very user friendly. So what you do is that you have this shaft, you put it in there, and then you take your home drill, which means, of course, I've been using the drill a lot more than Seb over the past couple of years, which is great. Anyway, I don't see anything, you know, yeah, I mean, a drill is nothing, it's not physical, is it? It's not something a man has absolutely to handle, is it? So anyway, you put it onto your drill, so it will fit any drill, really. And then I'm not going to action it, but you can imagine, you action your drill, and it's going to spin very fast. And so you can, what I do is I put my, so for instance with this, it's what I'm going to do with this one actually. The next step for this one is that. I put this back onto my wheel, I remove the brake, the brake tension, and so that it can move freely. And I wind it, I first hand wind it for the first few inches onto that, and then I action the drill and it's going to wind really fast. What I'm doing is I'm pretty careful to, I take my time going along across the shaft, because if you go really fast like this, what I don't like about this is when you ply your yarn, because you're going to put that on your lazy Kate, the yarn is going to be, the singles are going to be really going anywhere, you know, very fast. I just don't like that. I like it to be more, I think it feeds more evenly, if you want, when you ply, if it travels, you know, pretty slowly across when you ply it. And so for this I'm doing a 2-ply, so what I do is first I weigh this, first I weigh an empty wooden bobbin to set my scales. I use these tiny precision scales for that. I use it a lot. Then I weigh this to figure out how much weight I've got on that, and so I aim to spin to wind half of it in here, and so I weigh it when I think about halfway. I weigh it again, and so that's how I do it. And so I wind it onto a couple of bobbins. And then the great thing about these is you do have a whirl here, which means you're able to tension it. If you have a tensioned lazy Kate, which I do, I have the Krumsky lazy Kate. If you had a tension, you can tension it, and I do like to ever so slightly tension my bobbins. Especially when I have small quantities, so that it doesn't fly everywhere in every direction. When you take the yarn off, it doesn't spin back in the other direction whenever you stop. You know, it feeds it more evenly into your plying, really. And so you can use this on your lazy Kate, and then you can ply directly from these. So these have been really very helpful to me. They're a very efficient way, and of course it goes really fast when you're using a drill, and they were by far the most cost-effective option for me, especially in France, because of course I already had the drill, so I only had to get these, and of course they come from the US, but they are really made from a very small US company, and they weren't really expensive to ship out. And you know, when I say they come from the US, I don't want to shop American, absolutely not. There are some wonderful products in the US or overseas or anywhere, but my main, when I say that, it's always because of the carbon imprint, and I try to limit my carbon imprint as much as possible, and that's why I try to buy European as much as possible, is for the environmental aspect, really, to limit how much stuff I get shipped from the US, really. So do bear that in mind when I'm saying this. It's not, I don't want to imply in any way any sort of contempt for products made in other parts of the world, really. It's this aspect. It's I really try to buy as much locally as I can. So yes, lastly, oh yes, and another thing that I really like about this is, you know, a lot of when you watch, when you get a spinning lesson or you watch spinning classes, which is what I usually do, a major advice is to let your singles rest at least overnight, so that the kinks go out, really. But to me, the most effective way to get rid of kinks in your singles so that you can then ply them evenly and easily is precisely to wind them up onto these bobbins. This relaxes the yarn a lot more than any kind of resting could, really. And it means, in fact, that if you're impatient, you can definitely, I've seen no difference, you can definitely wind them up directly onto these and then ply them up. My only reservation is really more ergonomic, really, is if you've been spinning all day and then winding this up and then plying it all in one day, do watch out for your back. I have a pretty bad back at the moment because of the pregnancy. I had the same problem that I used to have with my daughter at this time of the pregnancy, is sciatica, which is flaring up if I overdo things in my right leg, you know, back, bottom. Just, I think it's pretty much like what Kay of the Bakery Bears is experiencing at the moment. Although I don't have it as bad as her, definitely not yet anyway, but I do have to be very careful when I'm spinning, especially not to overdo it. So rather spin for a short while at a time every day than spin for long stretches at a time. Yeah, so now I'd like to move on to the final segment of the podcast, which is Happy Mail Day. And of course, one of my Happy Mail Days elements was this absolutely exquisite cup and teacup and saucer set. But first of all, I mentioned to you last time that I had been waiting for a package from Eden Cottage Yarns for months because I think I ordered this in November. Well, definitely in November. I can't remember exactly when in November, but anyway. And it didn't show up, and I started to get worried, and I emailed her, and at first I just thought, you know, it's the holidays and things are really crazy, but then you know, after January 15th, it really was getting pretty worrying. So I emailed her, and she replied straight away. Victoria of Eden Cottage Yarns replied straight away and told me, well, I can, sadly this yarn is no longer available, but you can either choose some other yarn in the shop, or I will refund you the order. Which I thought was just so professional and just very wonderful. And I was about to reply to her saying that I thought it would be easier to just get a refund so that if the package did show up, then I could refund her back. But before I had time to email her again, she emailed me and told me the package had been returned to her, which is very strange. Anyway, the good news is she sent it back and I received it yesterday. That was such a wonderful package to receive. So I also got her lovely bag, which is so pretty. Eden Cottage Yarns with the little sheep. So that will make a lovely project bag. And so what I ordered, and initially, yeah, this was going to be Seb's gift to me. Anyway, Christmas gift to me. So what I ordered are these two skeins. So a light grey and a fuchsia pink. And so the fuchsia is the Bedale 4-ply, and it's actually called fuchsia. The colourway is fuchsia. It's very, very luxurious. It's yak, mulberry silk. 50% yak, 50% mulberry silk. It's a fingering weight yarn. It's 100 grams, 400 meters. Sorry. Hope you can see it well. There you go. And the other one is her Hayton 4-ply, and the colourway is Still, and it's her MCN base, so 80-10-10, 80% merino, 10% cashmere, 10% nylon. Also fingering weight, 350 meters for 100 grams. There you go. And so the reason why I got these two is in November I queued the Colour Reflection shawl, because that's a shawl I've been wanting to make for a while. I was especially inspired by Cocotte Knits on Instagram. She's Coralie21 or 22 on Ravelry. She's a French knitter. She lives in London. And she podcasts in French, but her Instagram feed is bilingual, French and English. And she is the shawl, especially she's the shawl fiend or shawl queen, especially when it comes to garter stitch shawls. And she recently made she's made 2 Colour Reflection, and she recently made one, and it reminded me how much I love this shawl. And so I queued that up, and then a very kind Instagram friend and viewer, who is Emilia, gifted me the design in November of last year. And so I thought this was just fate, and so that's why when Seb, asked me what I wanted for Christmas, I thought it would be really nice to have the whole shawl as a gift, so with the yarn, and I did want to have a grey with a deep vibrant pink especially for the border, and 2 greys, a darker grey and a mid grey for you need 3 colours for the Colour Reflection. And in my stash I already had this beautiful scrumptious 4-ply by Fibre Spades, which I got 4 years ago, over 4 years ago now, since I got this when I was in the UK in the Peak District, and I got this in Manchester actually 4 years ago. So it's scrumptious, scrumptious 4-ply, and I think it's more of a, it's a sport weight, but I think it will work, since it's 365 meters for 100 grams, and it's silk and merino, 45% silk, 55% merino. So this is going to make for a very, very luxurious shawl, and I think it works perfectly. It's going to make such a beautiful Colour Reflection. So I'm so excited about this project now. I'm so excited that it came, and yay! So yes, that's a very, very happy mail day indeed. And I had another wonderful mail day last Friday. I received the most thoughtful package from Sharma, who is Adelaide Cottage on Etsy and on Instagram, and she has a podcast as well. And actually I feel very silly because I've been wanting to mention her podcast for a couple of times now, so ever since I discovered it, because I think it's a lovely, lovely podcast. It's a newish podcast now. She started it at the end of last year, and I started watching straight away because she was in my Instagram feed, and I saw she'd started a podcast, and I really, really love her aesthetics. So I was very excited to see that she was starting a podcast, and I was certainly not disappointed. So if you start watching the podcast, she did have a few lighting issues and filming issues, like you do when you start really a podcast, in the first few episodes. But she's really now, her podcast is stunning, and in any case, she has such a wonderful personality, and she is so passionate about what she does, and she has this beautiful aesthetics again, and this very much reflects her aesthetics. So she has a very muted kind of palette, mostly, and she mentioned in her last podcast that she defined her style as, I think, granny, shabby, vintage style, and that's exactly it, really. And it's very much in the same style as Danny of Little Bobbins. This is the same kind of inspiration, really. And so she sent me this bag, first of all, which is a massive project bag. So she has an Etsy shop where she sells project bags and hand-dyed yarn, and she's probably soon going to be selling some wool wash as well, natural wool wash that she makes, soap, which is very exciting. And I had been admiring her bags for a long time, and so she sent me a massive sweater bag, really sweater-sized bag, which is a lovely little Progress Keeper zipper pull. There you go. And inside there's a handle, and it's got a pocket as well. It's very squishy. I don't know what kind of interfacing you're using, Shauna, or maybe you're even using some batting in there, but it's so squishy and lovely. And absolutely love the print. And in there, so it's lined with this very soft pink, and it's got a pocket also interfaced, and along with, and inside I've put all the goodies. Along with it there is this absolutely amazing, I'm so spoiled, absolutely amazing yarn, which is her Pink Lemonade colourway. It's MCN as well. I'm so spoiled, aren't I? A fingering weight, so 400 yards, 2-ply, 100 grams. It's her Marion base, her MCN base is her Marion base. And I had been, this was in my favourites in Etsy, and so she gave it to me. How generous is this? So it's this lovely muted pink with speckles of fuchsia pink and grey and yellow as well. So lovely. So this definitely has to become a shawl, don't you think? It's just so gorgeous, and it goes with the bag so well. It's just so delightful. Even the card is, matches the whole style, which is just so lovely. Very lovely, thoughtful card as well. And she explained why she sent me, everything. And she sent me some Rolex from Nicole C. Mendes, who is a fibre dye I've been wanting to try, because I've been hearing a lot of good things about her in other podcasts. Lovely Rolex that I can spin as minis for my blanket, for my crochet blanket. How cute is that? Lovely soft colours, completely my shades. And there was also some lovely chocolate in there. Dove chocolate, black chocolate, which I have such a craving for chocolate at the moment. And last week, well, when her package arrived, I was out of chocolate, so Shauna, that was a godsend. And lastly, she also had some tea, but it's in my kitchen. And Shauna, you're the one I have to thank for getting me back onto tea. I was slowly thinking maybe I could try to, I mentioned last week that I've been completely put off tea since the beginning of the pregnancy. But it was starting very, very slowly to maybe come back. And then I received Shauna's package, and just opening this little package, and everything was packaged so beautifully, just opening her little package of tea bags that she included, and reading the descriptions made me think, okay, that's it, I think I'm ready for a cup of tea. And she sent especially some Tazo tea, which I had never had before. It's organic tea. We don't have it in France. And actually I've been, I absolutely want to get a box. She got me the peach cobbler, which actually was the one lovely Kristen was drinking in her last week's episode of her podcast. So that was very fun, because I was actually drinking the same one as I was, you know, it was completely unplanned. I brewed myself a cup of tea, put on her podcast, and there she was talking about this peach cobbler tea, green tea. And also she got me another green, you know, peach green tea, which is even tastier. I really, really love it. Very summery. So anyway, the last thing in the package was this pattern, which a lot of you know because it's been going the rounds, and it's been very, very popular in 2015. It's Simplicity 1080, and it's this super cute Dotty Angel dress or tunic, and of course I'd been very taken with it as well. And this is going to be perfect for maternity, I think, as well, since it's pretty loose fitting. What do you think? I think it's going to be pretty cute as a maternity dress, don't you think? So that's actually what got the whole idea of the cute dress along started, because several people on Instagram mentioned, when I showed the package on Instagram, several of you mentioned, oh, I have this dress, I had this pattern, I want to make it, or oh, I've already made one of these, I really want to make another one. And so I thought, that's it, we're having a cute dress sew along for early 2016. So yes, so of course if you have this pattern, feel free to join with this pattern, it would be really lovely. I know I want to start first with the washi dress, but then I think I'm going to make this one. So if you don't know Shauna, the Adelaide Cottage yet, do check her out, because she's incredibly inspiring in so many respects, and I don't simply mean crafting, but in so many respects. She's just such a gentle soul. And Shauna, thank you so very much for this amazing friendship package, and I've been busy putting things together for you as well, and it's going to be just wonderful to spoil you as well soon, very soon. So thank you very, very much. It's just very special. It was so special to get this, and I must admit I really did tear up when I opened your package. So there you go. That is finally it for today. I'm so sorry this has been such a long episode. I think I was so distracted that I waffled a bit too much. I'm very sorry, because I know how hard it can be to watch. There are so many wonderful podcasts out there, and it's pretty hard to manage to watch all the podcasts you want when they take too long. So I do apologise. I will try to be better next time. And until next time, I do hope you're all doing very well. You're all staying very cozy, and and that January has been a good month for all of you. It certainly has been for me, despite the busyness. It's been a wonderful month. And before I go, I just wanted to say again, thank you so much for your kindness and your warmth and all the wonderful good thoughts that you've sent my way, because I've really appreciated each and every one of them. So thank you. So until next time, bye!